when you look at other sports, it's very much performance based. It's like, how fast can she run? How many goals can they score? How far can they throw a ball? Whatever. But for bodybuilders, it's like, it's your diet. And even in your off season, you can't really completely be off. You kind of still have to keep it in check a little bit. And if you are not built in a way that's able to sustain those caloric deficits, and I would argue nobody is, but if you can't sort of override your natural biological urges to do so, like that is the most difficult part about bodybuilding, in my humble opinion.
And it's interesting that you say that because, like I was saying, it's sold as this, you're the poster child of health. And because you're so insular in that environment, like all your friends start to become competitors and that behavior starts to become normal, like doing 3 hours of cardio a day. Oh yeah, everybody does it.
God,
like eating out of a Ziploc bag. Everybody does it. So you don't feel so alien because everybody around you does that. And then you think that every athlete, that's how they live. And that was kind of the click for me because I don't know if you know, my husband was a professional rugby player for 15 years. He played, he played at the highest level. He's from Ireland. He played for Ireland. He played at the All-Star team that they have for rugby. We've traveled to a few different countries with him playing. And whenever we started dating, that was kind of when it started to click. Because my husband was playing at the highest level in his chosen sport. And, he was spending 8 hours, 9 hours, like it was a full-time job. And the rugby season is long. But he still, come Saturday, if he's off, he can go to a restaurant, have his meal. I mean, he's not going to go out of town and like have 27 different desserts. But there was no obsession. And when that's when things started to click for me because I was no longer just surrounded by people that did the same thing I did.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe what I'm doing is not really normal. And, I know that normal is relative because if we go by normality in today's society, we're not normal either because we're not severely overweight. So, but in the context of a fit athlete, professional, what I was doing wasn't normal. And by watching him, I started to realize that the math wasn't mathing. And that's when I started to question a lot of the things that I was doing because the coaches that I had at the time were very much bro coaches. Like I had colleagues in the same, coaching team that had mercury poisoning from having too much orange roughy.
Oh my God, orange roughy.
Yeah, like
yes.
So you see what I'm saying? Like we were encouraged to wear like 2 or 3 waist trainers. My fingers were numb. Like the circulation, I couldn't breathe. So, there are a lot of things that it's like, oh, this is what you have to do. And it was very cultish. And being exposed to, a different performance sports, it started to open my eyes. And that's when I started to question. And kind of like I was saying before, I get a lot of heat now from contest prep coaches because I speak about a lot of the things that I experienced and that I still see happening. People are trying to act like it doesn't happen. Like I saw an Olympia athlete posting about having 700 calories a day and, doing 3 hours of cardio. I'm like, that's not normal. Stop it.
Yeah.
So, acting like it doesn't happen, it still happens. So we need to be honest and sell it for what it is. I learned a lot from it from a personality development standpoint, the resilience, the discipline, the commitment, the ups and the downs, a lot of skills that have allowed me to build a successful business because they were transferable. But from being a poster child of health and fitness. And that's the thing that drives me insane when you have a lot of bodybuilders and I post myself drinking, I don't know, a glass of wine. Not getting shit-faced, but I'm, if I'm celebrating something with my husband, I'm going to have a glass of wine. You're supposed to be healthy. And I'm like, hold on, but is, eating myself sick and having a sick bucket after winning the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world, is that healthy?
Right. Did you lose your menstrual cycle? Was your menstrual cycle regular?
So we kind of touched on it. I have PCOS, so my cycle was always hot mess express.
Right.
So I don't know what was causing the not having cycle, because I never had a very regular cycle. So it's hard to
Right.
pinpoint what it was.
Right. Right.
But I know for a fact that what I had, like having a sick bucket near your bed after you win the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world because you weighed yourself sick, quite literally. I don't know, man, but that doesn't sound normal to me.
Well, it's absolutely not normal. And I think the big mind F, if I may, is that you get all this positive reinforcement. People are like, oh my God, you look so good. You look so like you're getting all of this sort of societal, like you look great.
Yeah.
And then after you step off on stage, like post show, you can't, I mean, women are not meant to be that lean anyway, but then post show you start eating normally. Maybe you reverse, you reverse dieting, or maybe you go crazy like so many athletes do. They have like the pizza and the cake and the whatever, and then the compliments stop and it's like, oh, okay, so what I need to do is to get back there. And so it's this constant, like, I have to be that lean all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that has really sort of waded into women, like women who are not bodybuilders, women who are not in the space, where
Because
they
you
think
have,
that, yes, sorry.
because you also have a lot of contest prep coaches advertising the nonsense that they do as, oh,
Right.
we can do that as a lifestyle. But it's not. It's just a slightly glorified contest prep version to someone who has zero desire of getting on the stage. And then you're constantly reinforcing that all or nothing mentality that is making the long-term success unsustainable and, like, quite honestly, impossible. And then these women keep on being stuck on this cycle of feeling like they're failing.
Yeah.
Because before, like I say this all the time, if you were to put me now, as I managed 3 teams, like 3 businesses, 2 small children, a husband, a house, if I were to do now what I did when I won the Olympia, I would be in a mental institution. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then I see women who are still trying what they did or what their contest prep coach did with them when their only responsibility was to brush their teeth and have clean underwear to go to work.
Right.
Now, when they have a lot of things to juggle, and then they keep on feeling like they're failing, and it's like, what is wrong with me? But what if we change the narrative to being like, what if you are not what is wrong? What may be analyzing that the strategy that you're utilizing no longer serves you because you're in a different season of life.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We were actually talking about this before we got going. You were like, are we training for details like the adductor tie-ins, right? Are we training for that? Or are we training for a mom of 3 who wants to feel vibrant and energized and she's able to show up for her children without snapping at them or falling asleep on the couch with Doritos in her hand, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is an important distinction. And I think part of it, and I think some of this comes with age, and a lot of it comes from experience that you have experienced going through the whole prep multiple times and getting that lean and the throwing up and all of that and the crying on the treadmill. So you either sort of hopefully mature into it with age or with experience, is that is not what the ideal female form should look like. Most women so you didn't necessarily know where your menstrual cycle was. I was saying to you before we got going, I lost my period for like 3 months after I competed, and that is not normal. So my body did not have normal amounts of progesterone, normal amounts of testosterone, or normal amounts of estrogen for those 3 months. But that, even in that 3 months, like there are women that I know that compete that have not had their period for years because of how lean they have been. And that is like, when we think about this from an evolutionary perspective, like evolution doesn't care that you're competing, like you're, as a human, like you have to procreate, you have to reproduce, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not you choose to do that, that's a different story. Yeah. But if you are not able to, because you are too lean, right? You've lost your period, your ovaries are like, this is not safe. You cannot have a baby like this. This is something maybe to pay attention to.
100%. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that I keep on honing in now is that we have, and excuse my language, but it's this mental masturbation on, obsessing over optimum. Oh, what is best? And, always looking for that novelty. And I feel like people, we spend so much time planning the plan to then plan the plan to execute the plan, that by the time we come to the execution piece of it, they're already tapped out on the energy. It's like, so, what is the most optimal anti-inflammatory food items that I can have, and what food frequency and meal frequency? And I'm like,
So true.
what? Like, but, and this is a conversation that I actually had with a client recently. She's like almost 300 pounds. And, her goal is fat loss. And for like her BMI is very high. And, she's like, oh, what are the most like anti-inflammatory best foods? And I'm like, we shouldn't be concerned about anti-inflammatory foods, because what we need to focus on first before anything is an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, period.
Yeah, you just got to move, girl. Like, that's it. You just got to move a little bit, and you got to make a little bit better choices.
Yeah.
But I think what you're talking about is actually very important, because I think when people decide that they want to do something with their health, it's like 0 to 100, right? It's like, I'm going to lose, I don't know, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds. I'm going to lose that. And they think about the outcome, but they don't actually think about the steps that lead to the outcome. So if it's 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds that you want to lose, who do you have to become? What are the
Yes.
what would that person do every day? Not,
Yep.
I will be happy when I lose 50 pounds. Like, who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares if you lose 50 or 30? Like, what are the steps? Who do you become in the process?
Yeah. Yeah. And there is also like the whole idea of, and then I'm gonna cut carbs, and then I'm gonna, I'm not gonna drink wine, and I'm not gonna have any sugar. And I'm like, right, you have kids, right? And the person's like, yeah. And I'm like, do your kids like ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like having ice cream with your kids? Oh, yeah, it's a moment that we use to connect. So how is it that cutting sugar is going to be something that fits your reality and the things that are important to you? Why don't we start to talk about, aligning your goals with your lifestyle and the things that are priority to you? Because the moment that you start to cut out everything, it's gonna get to a point that you're gonna crack. And then you just keep on being stuck on that never-ending cycle. And that's something that I talk a lot of with our members is, I will never tell you that you are not allowed to do X, to do Z.
Yeah.
That is not my job as a coach. I am not a bunch of grown-ass women. I'm not their babysitter. My job as a coach is to educate them on what this does, what is the outcome, and align them with their goals. And then put them on the driver's seat of making the decision on what is important to them based on, the knowledge that I gave them, and, allow them to make a decision, because I think that this is so much more empowering, even though I hate the word empowering, but it is empowering. It
Oh my
puts that
God.
person in the driver's seat
Yes.
of their decisions. I think that there is nothing worse than when I speak with somebody and they're like, well, I can't eat that because my coach doesn't allow me to. I'm like, the fuck? You're a 45-year-old woman. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like you have a 30-year-old man that has no kids telling you that you can't do that? Like,
Right.
you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think that is so much more powerful for that long term, and having the honest conversations.